to get started now. Is everybody able to hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great, good. And everybody sees my screen, right? Good. Okay, we're going to talk about the ad hoc reporter, which is called Report Designer. It's a group of programs that is related to Invista ARM. It comes with your purchase of Invista ARM. It's a bit of an advanced subject, but this will give you an idea of some of the features that are available, and we'll talk more about it in another webinar in the future. And then from there, I'm sure you'll have more questions that we can work on individually as we go. There's really 4 components to the Report Designer package of applications. First is the Report Designer itself. This is where you will lay out your report on a page and determine field. There's the Report Client, which is the least useful of the tools. It does allow you to run the report. However, the third portion of the package is Invista ARM, where in the Tools menu, there's a Report Designer view. So what the Report Designer view and what Report Client allow you to do is manually run the reports that you've elected to create in Report Designer. The last piece of the puzzle is Report Scheduler. This is a desktop-only application at this point, but it's being converted into a service-type application like Com Center or Send Alerts or FTP Import-Export. And this allows you to schedule the reports that you've designed to run at selected intervals. So, for instance, you could run a daily report, and it also allows you to save those reports as PDF or as Excel documents, and then you can also send them to a printer so that you can have a report ready for you in the morning, things like that. We all start with Report Designer, which is where the basic features of the program are found, the design element at least. We'll open that software. Each of these needs a connection to the database as usual, and the report layout is stored in the database. Here's what we get when we have Report Designer open for the first time. You'll see that it has a list of tools that you can put on a report on the left-hand side, and then the rest of the form is essentially empty. So what we need to do is actually create a report that we're going to edit and modify here. So we'll go to File, and you would think that the first thing you need to do is say New Report, but actually you have to create a group to hold the reports first. These are kind of like folders for the groups in your system. So we'll add a new group, and we'll click on it to rename it and call it Webinar. Hopefully it'll stick around until the next webinar. And so we have this group now. If you have a group that you want to remove, you can click on it and say Delete Group. It deletes the folder and all of the reports within it. So now we only have one folder called Webinar. We'll say OK. Now we can create a new report in that folder. So we'll click File and New. And I'll just name this Webinar 1. You give the report a title that it will be referred to in the system. This will be referred to as Webinar 1 in all 4 applications that can work with these reports. You could select the type of report that it is. This is a kind of like, it's not the time-based interval of the report, but it's the amount of data that would show in it. So if we select a daily report, we're looking at a midnight to midnight report. And that's what we'll start with since it's very basic. Here you can verify the group that you want to add it to. This lower part is where you'll select the type of page layout and units that show up in the rulers in the program. So we'll say we'll go with letter and inch because everyone here uses letters and inches. You can also select between portrait and landscape. We'll start with portrait to keep it very simple. So now you can see that we have a kind of a blank page with a header, the main portion of the report. and at the bottom we have a footer. Now we have the ability to add various things to this layout. What we're going to talk about today are the generic type of non-data related features, so the images and the labels, and then we'll also do a single basic table, a data table, and a chart based on that table. And then the rest of the features we'll talk about next time, well, at the end of August. So we'll start with figuring out what we want to have as the header. So we'll click on image and we can just drag that into the report. These are tools that can be dragged onto the report so that they're available for your manipulation there. So once it's here, we can click on it and drag it around and adjust its size. There's no image right now because we haven't selected one. So what we'll do is go into this right-hand side and you'll see that there's a list of properties. The properties are the list of variables that are related to each of the tools. So each tool has a list of properties, and some of these tools have tools within them, like the tables have columns that are kind of treated as tools themselves. You'll see that in a moment. But each of these tools has a list of properties. You'll see you can change the height, the width, and the length, the size of these controls here. So we'll click on the image here, and you'll see there's an ellipsis that appears, so we can click on that and select an image. We don't have many images on this, so we're just going to put this recycle bin. You'll see that the image, the only option we have for it is actually to stretch, so you do have to size the image the way that you want. You have the ability to manipulate and place it where it suits your liking. The next thing we'll look at is the smart, well, we'll do a label next. They're simple as well. These are just textual items that appear. You'll see they have many properties though. So there's the background color, the foreground color, and the frame color. The background is what's behind the text. The foreground is the text itself. And the frame color is the box around. I don't like the frames, so I'm going to change the frame color to transparent. And that's one way to give hold here for a second. Okay, here we go. Now we can change the text here. We'll change it to say Nathan's webinar report. And you'll see it kind of goes off the side, so we do have to make it bigger. And I'm going to make it taller too because you can change the font. So if we click font, we click an ellipsis and we can change the font similar to what you might find in the advanced settings of Word. So we'll make it large and italics. We'll make it as ugly as possible, I guess. What I'm going for here. Okay. So Nathan's webinar report. Okay. There. Now, very important part of the report is probably what date range it is, or when it is run. So we'll start with the smart label for that one. Smart label is like the variables that you can insert into a header or a footer in Microsoft Word, basically page numbers and things like that. So we'll click select text, and then this time there's an ellipsis. You don't type in the box. You click the ellipsis, and we can say the start date. We can pick the format. I'm satisfied with that. I'll take out this select text part, and we'll put in a hyphen, and we'll put in the end date. Okay, looks good. And click preview and see that it will say, okay, in the test of current date, but it would actually be the report date start and the dated end date. We can put that in the report, and we'll make it nice and big so it fits. Still don't like the frames, so the other option I think is we can set the frame width to 0. Oh no, still likes the be there. So transparent. Okay. That's good for now. There is also a rich text option where, once again, you'll select the text with an ellipsis button, and you basically get WordPad in a way. It allows you to edit the data and select different font sizes for different sections of the text, assign different colors to different portions of the text. So you could have a warning in red and then the rest of the text of your warning message in black, things like that. That's possible with the rich text option. So we'll save that. And done that, right? Oh, there it is. Kind of hard through a remote connection to get the right place to move it around. Enough. So that's it for the basic labeling and things that you'll put in the header and footer. Of course, you can put these labels anywhere in the body of the document as well. Put text there that says, here is the table. I'm typing too fast for this remote desktop connection right now. Okay, so here's the table, and as promised, we will now build a data table. So we'll take the data table item, the tool, and we'll drag it into the report, and now we get what looks to be the start of an actual data table. It doesn't look too complete, and that's because we actually have quite a bit of work to do to make it so. To go over the properties, the first section here is just the way that it appears in terms of the fading on the box and the different elements within the view itself, including the font. The data is where we'll go next. The layout, again, is its position on the form or in the report. Whether or not to auto-size the columns and whether or not it's time ending or time beginning. Those are true-false options. And the string options are just the alignment of how the elements fit in each area. So we'll click on the table, and now we can manipulate the data elements that appear. So we can add columns and we can add rows. Just like in Vista, the columns will be the parameters, and the rows will be the elements that appear in the list. So by default, the rows will be each hourly or minute value, and you can add summary rows like in Vista. You'll see. The report time base is, of course, pretty important. You see here we have 1 minute as the report time base, but let's go ahead and change that to hourly, so we're only dealing with 24 hourly records in a daily report. And then we can go into the columns collection, and we can select to add a column. So we'll add an average column, or 2, or 3. So for each parameter that we want to see in the report, we need to add an average column, or alternately a min-max column. So there are 3 averages, and each column you'll see has parameters that are related to it. An average, where it's set on the form. I usually don't have to manipulate too many of these. Each average does have the ability to be from a separate time base, so this could be from 1 minute, this could be from 15 minutes, and this could be from an hour if you wanted it to. But for the ease of the report, we'll just change all of these to 60. Okay. So now we have an altered table format. This will show you a and a list of options for them. This is an interactive table, which is one of the hurdles that I think people need to get over, is that once you put this on here, you do a lot of the work over in the property section, but then the tables actually are interactive where you'll select the site that you want the data from. So I don't even know what site might have data from when at this point. Try Hilo just for fun because I think there's some really old data. And then there's a list of the parameters. So you'll just select the station and the parameter that you want to see. Report's not intending to make any sense. So we have data from all over the world, basically. And it would show up as a column for each entry, and the 24 hourly records would appear. We could add more rows to the report. So there's the stations, the monitor, the data view is the row with the actual data listing. But then you could add a maximum value and a minimum value column. These don't have very many properties. They just appear and are calculated when the report is created. Now we have a fairly attractive, simple report. And this can be moved around the form and placed anywhere we want. So set that there. And then I promised we'd also talk about how to make a chart. It helps to make a table before you make a chart because the charts in Report Designer must be based on a table that's also in the report. It doesn't have to be visible. We'll get into that later. But it does have to be in the report. We'll move a label over here and we'll say, here is the chart. And we'll select the chart item, just the basic chart, and drag it into the form. And you'll see that a pop-up appears. This is how we're going to configure the chart. It's a kind of a wizard, actually. So you have the option to create a new table which won't be displayed on the report. That's the hidden type of table. Or you can create it from an existing table. So we'll say next. And we can select the table. So you click on a table so it's selected. You know the table is selected because you can see the column headings. If you're not selecting the table, you'll see there's no column headings. We'll say next. And now it loads the table and it allows us to click on a column. Obviously, it took me a couple clicks to do that, so what you do is select the table and then select the column by clicking on its header. And you can select it that it's visible, and you could set the line thickness, and you could also set the line color. We'll select another column, and we'll say this is visible, and it can stay blue. And we'll select the third column, and we'll make it pink, fuchsia. So we've selected all of our columns. We've assigned them each a color. We can click next. We can add line limits or exceedances or shading to the chart as well. So if you have AQI thresholds that you would like to see in the chart or things like that, you can configure them here. Basically just if you wanted an AQI of green for the ozone or whatever, I guess you could say 0 to 50, and we'll make it really pale green, just so it doesn't interfere with the colors on the chart. Okay. So now you see it's 0 to 50. We could add another line that would be 50 to 75. Of course, I'm keeping this pretty simple, so we'll make this an orange color. Add another color, 75, 100, red, whatever. Okay, so now you see there's these kind of limit lines or areas that you might be concerned about data in. Of course, these are values in engineering units, so if you have multiple parameters that don't make sense together, the numbers won't make sense. We can click next, and we actually see the chart with some of its detail available, and we can resize it as appropriate. I would advise actually putting the chart at the top of the report, not the bottom of the report, because now we don't know how many rows this is going to be sometimes, so it might push the chart onto another page or halfway through. Nice to have the charts on the top of the page. That's the basics for creating the report. I'm going to save this one while I can. But before we go and run it very quickly, I just wanted to mention to you about these icons here. These you'll probably recognize from maybe PowerPoint or Visio if you use those types of tools. They're basically alignment items, so you could select two elements on the table or in the report and use these to align them. So the pictures of the icons are actually fairly descriptive. So this one would move them both to the left to the same left alignment, and this would move them both to the right, the same right alignment. And when I say the same, it's always based on the first item you pick. Put this to the left. If we're certain that this is centered well, we could click this and then click the chart and say we're going to line them up center on the center line. So they're now centered with each other. You can use these tools to make things easier. The rulers are going to make things the same size. So if I wanted this one to be the same size, we could make them the same width. Okay, so that's the basics for creating a very simple report. Again, the rest of the tools, the summary data, the calibration table, missing data table, matrix. Bill Branch joined us. He might be interested that there is now a windrows in this tool. 2Y chart, text table. I don't even know what that one is, to be honest with you. A matrix table. So these are all things that I either don't know what they are immediately, I haven't tested them in the latest version, or they're just too complicated to go into at this exact moment. We're actually beyond our 20 minutes already. We've got this saved. We'll go into Invista really quick. I can't guarantee that I'll be able to find data for this immediately. So we'll click Report Designer View. You'll see that the report is available since I refreshed the database. I guess, let's see. I've been using this database for every webinar. You would think I would know where there was data. We'll try this. We're going to click Preview. So what it does is it tries to generate the report in kind of a PDF viewer. We do have data for Hilo there. And you'll see the labels stayed where they were placed, but the chart has been pushed to the next page. So that's one of those reasons why I like to have the chart first. Data there. Data that shows up in the chart, the min value, the max, the time, the date times were more row options that you could put in there. This icon looks bad because it's an icon file, obviously. And you'll see that the date time got filled in. I don't know. Resolution. See the date time got filled in with the data from our text stuck like it should have. Zoom in up the graph. With Scheduler, which we'll talk about in the next session, to be put in a network drive so that you're always having it available when you come in. You can schedule them on a daily basis for many sites. And it's actually a very useful tool once you get past the intimidation factor of using something that's fairly complicated. Does anybody have any questions on the webinar today?
Nathan, it's Sonia from Montreal.
Bonjour.
Hello. I wanted to know which version of Reporter did you use for the webinar?
The one that works. No.
Yes. Which one is that?
I don't know that it really has version numbers. At least the installation files don't, so we kind of have to go by date. Yeah, this says version 1.1. I'm sure yours says the same version number.
Okay. Is it on the FTP site?
Yeah, it's the version that's on our FTP site. I downloaded it today from drdas users for use in the webinar.
Okay.
However, Sonia, you have Oracle. I think that it might be useful for us to try to work together to make sure that it makes the tables correctly in its scripts. Because Report Designer, when you install it, still has some scripts that it runs by itself. So that might be worth some review on both of our parts. I know Randy has something scheduled with you tomorrow, right?
Yes.
So maybe we will have time to look at it then, I'm not sure. If not, I'm out next week, but the week after that I have a couple days that I'll be in the office, and maybe we can schedule for then. But,
Okay, thank you.
It is great. I appreciate your interest.
Yes.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thanks for being with me. I know I talked for about 5 minutes longer than I normally do, but I like this program, so that's why I'm excited about it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
And Gal.
Nathan.
Yes, no problem.